Okay, to take you back to pre-license for just a moment and remind you when you're qualifying a buyer, now I know in the field that your lender will be doing this, but the commission wants you to understand a little bit about what the lender is looking at. So remember we use our T-bars in pre-license class, and here's what the T-bar basically tells you. That your housing expense should only be a certain ratio in relationship to your gross monthly income. And then when the bank looks at you, what they look at are two different things. This is what we would call the income ratio because notice all it does is takes a look at the relationship between your housing expense and your gross monthly income. But the bank also looks at your total debt. So when you look at the back end, housing expense plus long-term debt. And your long-term debt would include things like your student loan payments, your car payments, things that are recurring debts. So let's go back and remind you exactly what everything means. Housing expense is how much it costs to own a home on a monthly basis, even if you didn't bother to turn the utilities off and on or buy groceries. Let me give you an example. Housing expense is PI, principal and interest, TI, taxes and insurance. Housing expense also includes, and they might include this in a question having to do with a post-license class, housing expense also includes your monthly homeowners association dues and if you're paying any PMI, private mortgage insurance, because you would have to pay those every month. So let's take a look at the relationship here. Housing expense should not exceed a certain percentage of your gross monthly income. Lisa, can you read us the problem?
A buyer is purchasing a home and he would like to obtain a conventional loan in the amount of $200,000.
Okay, so far so good, but notice we don't have a spot on here to put the loan amount.
That would result in a monthly PI payment of $1,200.
Okay, stop right there for just a moment. Notice that it said PI payment, so that's part of the housing expense, but that's not all of the housing expense. So the PI is $1,200. What else do you have? Keep reading.
Monthly escrows for TI will average $240.
Okay, so plus $240 for your TI. So does it make sense to you that your total housing expense would be $1,440? Okay.
And they will incur HOA dues of $50 per month.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I was not through yet. So let's add the $50 there. So $1,490. Now, look at this. We are finished down here. We have found the housing expense here. Now, what I'm going to do is, now that I know what the housing expense number is, I'm going to move it down here because I will need it to solve the back end as well. Continue reading, Lisa.
His car payment is $325.
Okay, it's $325. What else?
He has other recurring debts of $500 per month.
Okay, so it sounds like 300 plus 500?
325.
325 plus 500 is 825. That's his long-term debt. So his back-end ratio looks like it's going to be around 2315 when you add those two together. I hope I did the math correctly on those. That looks right. Okay, continue reading.
What is the minimum monthly income he must make in order to qualify for a mortgage loan using the 2836 rule?
Okay, so what we're saying on that is the 2836, the bank is going to qualify him at ratios of 2836. In other words, his front end ratio, his housing expense should not exceed 28% of his gross monthly income. And notice that question was asking for what's the minimum monthly income that he must make in this particular case. So it sounds to me like we're looking for the right thing. In other words, we have these two variables, so the one we're looking for is the minimum income. We come down here and do the same thing, except the ratio is 36. We're looking for gross monthly income. So then we have gross monthly income equals $1,490 divided by 28%, and gross monthly income equals 2315 divided by 36%. And then when you're solving a minimum income question, the answer is actually going to be the greater of the two. When you're solving a minimum income question, the answer is going to be the greater of the two. And here's why. The bank would rather you make more money than less, right? So if most everybody will qualify down here, but if you end up qualifying on the back end, what that means is the bank thinks you have too much debt. And so they will not allow you to qualify for as much income. After calculating these out, what you'll find is that according to the front end ratio, $1,490 divided by 28% means you need to make a monthly income of around $5,300, just greater than $5,300. But look, because you have so much debt, the bank says, no, sorry. If you're going to buy that house, you're going to need to make more money. If you're going to buy a house that has that much payment and you have that much debt, you're going to need to make around $6,400 per month. So in this case, remember, minimum income question, the answer ends up being the greater of the two. One last point, when you're doing the other two problems, if you see anything referred to as other debt, other long-term debt, remember, if it's less than 6 months, we don't have to count it, because anything less than 6 months would not be considered long-term debt because it's going to be paid off in such a short period of time. All right, with that, let's see if you can knock out the other two. We'll check them on Wednesday morning.